The latest episode of the Good Sports podcast and web series is coming to SSPTV.com and StandardSpeaker.com this week. In this episode, Standard Speaker sports editor Dave Seaman and I chat with several members of the Hazleton Area High School baseball team. The Cougars finished off a perfect regular season recently, and now they're trying to see how far they can make it in the postseason. In the podcast, we talk about everything from hitting approaches, playing small ball, and breakfast foods. Here's a little preview, and remember to check our social media for the release date this week of this episode of the Good Sports podcast and web series.
You know, you had this shutout streak at the end of the year. It got up to like almost 7 shutouts in a row or something. Talk about that competitive factor among your teammates trying to outdo one another.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that helps us. Everyone's trying to fight for their own spot on the field. So I think that has really helped us move along and get in some games that have been tough. We've definitely worked through it, but as a team, it definitely helped us.
And you had this background too, like you talked about back in Little League. I remember covering you in Little League too. You had an outstanding team at Valley West back in 2017. I mean, that was way back when, but how much has that helped too? Like
yeah,
going
I
through that
definitely
process?
think just from a young age, getting coached the right way, being around the right people, and just competing for like my whole life, I think that's helped me as a baseball player and as a person move along.
Brett, when I was here last time for practice, I could show some of the video right now. I think it was you and Matt Shimani racing up the front. Like, I was here for 3 minutes and there was already a competition at practice. And Coach Kanzler was like, all right, I have the stopwatch. Let's see who could get up here the fastest. It was you and Matt. You flew, man. I mean, you got a lot of speed. You're kind of proud of. Have you worked on that?
I mean, I will say I think I've always been naturally fast. Yeah. But I think I have put some work in like the weight room and stuff that's helped me for sure. But I think just competition, that always just gives you that little extra adrenaline pump to just try and beat everybody.
Who is the fastest guy on the team? I mean, you have Matt Shimani, Grant Russo's obviously very fast. Who is the fastest?
I would probably say me. They might disagree, but I think we all will say ourselves, but it's probably between like me, Matt, and Grant.
After what you went through last year, having to miss last year, your first varsity season too, how much more fun is it this year because of that?
I mean, we're definitely playing for those guys that didn't get to play last year.
So obviously, you know, we talked. I did a story on Nick a few weeks ago about his influence of his brothers. You talk about that, Nick. I mean, they've been around you, and them being around all last summer. How much has that helped your game?
I mean, that was huge. Just like learning to be a pitcher, really. Because, I mean, training, if you're motivated, you'll train hard. But them being around for like actual games, and we could talk about stuff after outings, what they saw and what I need to do better. I think that was a really big part
More
of it.
importantly than the mental aspect of the game, the mental aspect of pitching.
Did you play growing up? I mean, did you play baseball? Has this been your sport?
Yeah, signed 5 years ago.
Okay. Do you play any other sports?
No.
No, just baseball. What makes you love it? What makes you want to go out there, come to practice, put the hard work in? Why do you love this game so much?
Just to put my family feel better and get better. Yeah.
Does it feel good? Like, what does your family say after a home run? Like, what's it like? What's it like at the house? What's it like after you hit a big home run?
They can't believe it because they haven't seen me play yet, but they know I'm good at it.
Proud of you.
Yeah, they're proud.
What would you like to finish this season? What would you be proud? What have you been proud of so far this season for you? Has it been your hitting? Has it been pitch? What are you proud of?
I'm proud. Michael Kelke, he asked me how many home runs you want to hit, and this season I say 5. I have 4. I need 1 more.
So you guys got to keep going to get that 5th home run and hopefully a championship as well.
We talked about your wrestling. Obviously, you had a great run in wrestling the last couple of years too, and you were competing for a state championship there too. What's it like? How do you compare that, like competing for state district glory in wrestling to baseball with being part of a team doing it?
It's basically the same feeling. You get those nerves before the game, get those nerves before the match, and I personally like the nerves. I think I play better with nerves before the game, and I'm actually excited to get the nerves. I'm excited for playoff baseball because I want that same feeling back as I did at States.
And we talk about some of the guys on this team too that keep you cracked up too. You're usually like all business when you're on the field too, but you have guys like Nicky Biazzi and Alex Shell too keeping you loose too. Talk about that aspect of your team.
It's funny hearing them in the dugout when they're chirping. When we're at the bat, I hear what they call me. I start crackling. The Red Mane, that's my new nickname now. Whenever they say there's a fun time in the dugout, and I think we need them too to get our energy up and get our humor up and all of that.
Obviously, we're concentrating on this year's team, and there's a lot of talent around it. when all is said and done this season, though, how important is it to you seniors that something is left behind, that they learn from all of you who are going to really good colleges, and that the Hazelton program is still producing in years to come?
Right, yeah. I mean, we just want to, I've been thinking about that a lot recently. I want to leave something behind, like, just having meaningful conversations with all the younger guys, just being able to make an impact. That's a big thing.
Do you guys talk about goals? I mean, are you guys talking, let's get this district, let's get this, let's keep going as far as, or is it just kind of like just let's go and we're playing baseball?
It's one game at a time, definitely, but that's from the day we stepped on the field, first practice at Harmon Geist. It was, we know what the goal is this year. We got a district my sophomore year 2 years ago. We want to step it up from there. Obviously districts is first, but state championship is the ultimate goal.
One of the things you worked on, obviously, we talked about earlier in the season too, is your switch hitting too. Not many kids at your age switch hit. Tell us about that, how that started.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think I was like 8 years old, and me and my dad would just kind of like play around with like those little like Nerf ball things or whatever they are, and I'd get a bat and he'd just throw them to me, and I'd be like, yo, like I'm gonna take some lefty, and he'd be like, all right, and it gradually just moved on, like in the cage, like when we'd go hit, I'd do that lefty too, and then like all throughout Little League and that, like nobody would let me do it, so then it just kind of like stopped, and then every winter I kind of like picked it back up, and towards the beginning of the season. And then it would stop when the season started, and then it was just like a trend, and I'd just pick it back up. And then eventually, the one day I was doing a lesson with Russ, actually, and we were just talking, and I was like, yeah, like I could hit lefty. So like I started doing it with him, and he was like, dude, like you have to do it. Like you could definitely do it. So then it just, from that point on, it's just been something that I've been working on.
Russ, I asked the guys, last question I'll have on this, Dave, and then you could go, but I said I would say it's probably more fun watching some of the Cougar baseball games this year than Major League. You guys are putting it in play and getting it out there and willing to play some of that small ball a little bit, yeah.
Oh, man, I mean, you're speaking to a larger theme. We actually had the boys up to a Rail Riders game last Friday as a little team bonding thing, and, they were I was happy. I wanted them to go see that, and I'm watching the game, and I haven't sat and watched a professional game in a while, and I'm like looking at my watch. I'm like, man, it's 7-8 minutes since the ball's been just put in play, and they're watching. They're like, Coach, their infield's back. We could bunt on these guys. We should play the Rail Riders, or we could steal on that third baseman. He's not paying attention. The pitcher's never checking the runners. So the fact that they're paying attention to the nuances of the game, was really cool.